iDriveSoCal is brought to you by the very best auto retailers from across Southern California. When it's time for you to buy or even just kick the tires on the idea of buying, just go to iDriveSoCal.com and click on dealers. iDriveSoCal.com, click on dealers, and get connected. Now, on with the podcast.
I visited the World of Speed Motorsports Museum, which is located south of Portland. It focuses on motorsports, all forms of motorsports, including NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One. The second one was not planned while driving around Portland. I spotted an ad for The Shape of Speed featuring vehicles from 1930 to 1942. I would say they're groundbreaking for their time period.
Welcome to iDriveSoCal, the podcast all about mobility from the automotive capital of the United States, Southern California. Tom Smith here with our good buddy, the professor, Mr. Clinton Kwan. Say hello, Clinton.
Hi, Tom.
Nice to have you back, man. It's been a couple of weeks since we've laid anything down here in the podcast world.
Yes, it's great to be back.
Clinton went on a vacation, thus the couple of week absence. Although I don't think podcast listeners knew that he was gone for a couple of weeks because we had a few in the proverbial bank or vault that we released while you were gone. But Clinton is such a auto enthusiast that even when he and the associate professor, his son, went on vacation, he was hitting automotive museums. That is the professor, Mr. Clinton Kwan. And we were talking just before we started recording this podcast. I'm like, well, how am I going to actually tie this into Southern California automotive? And I guess the reality is, folks, that it's just the tie-in is that this is what the professor did on vacation. He went to one automotive museum deliberately and then actually hit another museum that had an automotive exhibit. So this was a trip that wasn't even a road trip, right? You flew there.
It was originally going to be a road trip, but we changed our plans and we flew to Portland.
Okay, so that's how I think you originally sold me on the idea that we could cover this because it would be a big, long road trip. So then I guess you did a little head fake there, and next thing you know, he's flying instead of driving. But hey, we're going to cover it anyway. So Clinton went to Portland, Oregon, and on vacation did a bunch of it. Well, why don't you take it away?
Well, I visited the World of Speed Motorsports Museum, which is located in a suburb about 17 miles south of Portland. The city is Wilsonville, Oregon. And this is a fairly new museum. It opened approximately 3 years ago.
Wow.
And it focuses on motorsports, all forms of motorsports, including NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One, and a lot of it has to do with racing that they do in Portland. There's actually a pretty well-known racetrack in Portland, the Portland International Speedway, and they do IndyCar racing there as well.
Okay, so all motorsports, but you didn't mention motorcycles or boats.
Well, there's actually motorcycles and boats there.
Oh, really?
There are, yeah.
All right, cool.
There was actually
Thought I hadn't got you there.
Quite a collection of motorcycles. I'm trying to remember how many boats there were. Not that many, maybe one or two, but there's definitely boats.
Okay.
Well.
So the World of Speed Motorsports Museum, just out of curiosity, if our listeners wanted to drive to this museum, what are we talking about? A 2-day drive?
It would be about 2 days. I believe when I originally planned to drive out to Portland, it was going to take about 17 hours.
Okay. All right. So you split it up, 8.5 apiece.
Yes.
Personally, I was just talking with Scott Reed, actually, out at Ontario Volkswagen about road trips. And he just finished a road trip. I think it was 15 or 17 hours. I was like, man, how do you, I like the road itself, like there's not enough caffeine on the planet to keep me awake driving. And I love to drive, but more than, I don't know, 6.5, maybe 8 hours. And I'm just kind of done because the road, the the road will put me to sleep. Like even if I'm having a ball driving my favorite car. Are you that kind of driver, or could you actually pull that off 8-9 hours at a stretch?
I can definitely do 8-9 hours, but I would need several breaks.
Okay.
Usually I split that in half. I'll have lunch halfway through the trip, and then maybe one coffee break in the morning and one in the afternoon.
Oh, I'd be pounding coffee the whole time.
But I can definitely do that. I've done that before. I've driven up to San Francisco, to Sonoma, Napa, Sacramento.
All right.
Yes, I've done that a number of times.
Okay, so World of Speed Motorsport Museum in just outside of Portland, Oregon.
Yeah, south of Portland.
17 miles south of Portland in Wilsonville, not to be confused with Shelbyville from The Simpsons, right?
Yes, not to be confused.
Okay. And the museum, we're going to have some pictures of the museum on iDriveSoCal.com along with this post. And there actually is some pretty darn cool vehicles that you have pictured. There's some race car. Tell me what we're going to look at.
Most of the pictures I took at the museum, they're Porsche 911s. They had a really special exhibition on the 55th anniversary of the Porsche 911.
Okay.
So there's a Porsche 911R that's a 2016, and that's considered the purest Porsche, 500 horsepower, normally aspirated engine.
The purest Porsche?
Yeah, that's what they call it. There's a classic Porsche 911. There's also a Porsche race car sponsored by Flying Lizard.
Flying Lizard?
Yeah, Flying Lizard.
Okay. You want to elaborate on the Flying Lizard just out of curiosity?
I don't know much about it, but that's the motorsports team.
Okay.
Yeah.
The name of a motorsports team.
Yes. And
I wasn't sure if maybe that was a caffeine drink that you were keeping yourself up during your trip with.
No.
Okay.
There's also a special Porsche 911 GT3 RS.
Okay.
Another high performance Porsche. And then
so of all the motorsports, you focused on the Porsches.
Yes. Okay. Well, this was the big.
This was the big exhibit that was going on at that time.
That was the big exhibit. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and it'll run through, I believe, September of this year.
Okay. So if you haven't, if you're on your way to Portland, head 17 miles south to Wilsonville and hit the World of Motorsports Museum down there. And we have a picture of the associate professor behind the wheel of an open car simulator, which is pretty cool looking.
That's one of the cool features at the museum. They have 3 different vehicles: a Formula One car, a NASCAR, and an Indy car. And I think it's $10, and you get 12 minutes behind the wheel of one of those vehicles.
You didn't say, "Hey, we're going to cover this for iDriveSoCal. Can I get a pass on the $10?"
Well, I didn't do it myself. I just had my son ride in the vehicle.
All right.
Yeah. So it was more.
Well, we do usually let you speak on behalf of him. You know, we should have him on one of these days.
Yes.
We should.
That would be fun.
He's a really cute little guy.
Yes. Everyone says that about him.
Okay, so what else about the old World of Speed Motorsports Museum up there in Portland?
Well, another thing that I really enjoyed, and my son definitely enjoyed, is they have a kids area as well.
All right.
Yeah, so there's a number of automotive stuff in there as well.
Such as?
It's a play area. They have this, it's actually a
little push car. You can go vroom vroom.
Well, they actually have a real Mustang in there.
That was a complete joke, and Clinton's not even laughing at all.
They completely customized it and put a screen in there, so you can pretend, I guess, you're driving the car in there.
Is that a simulator of sorts too?
Not really a simulator. You just sit in there, and there's a screen in the center.
Okay, so
it's for kids.
It's for kids.
Yeah, it's a kids play area.
So with that in mind, your son gets exposed, the associate professor gets exposed to really, really cool automotive things, totally adult style.
Yeah.
And case in point, this very same museum, he's there. And how old is he?
He's 7 years old.
Okay. He's 7 years old. And he's seen and done some really cool stuff with regard to automotive and automotive enthusiast.
Yeah.
And at this particular museum, we have a picture of him at the simulator that I think any adult in their right mind would kind of get giddy to plop down in and give a try to.
Yeah.
And here your young son, who's not even going to be driving for another almost 10 years, is experiencing that. My question is, when he sees the kiddie stuff, is he kind of like roll his eyes like, oh, geez, this is for the kids?
No, he still loves it.
He still loves it.
Yeah, he definitely loves it.
All right.
Yeah. He's actually not, he wasn't even supposed to go in that because he's not really tall enough. But the guy,
The adult simulator that he went on?
the docent, he was really nice. He's like, you know what, bring him back when everyone else leaves, we'll put him in there. So like, definitely got to do that. And he was so excited.
All right, very nice. Anything else before we wrap this one up? Because again, this is a little bit of a stretch, everybody. Sorry, it's not a museum in Southern California, but it is a cool museum, and it's something that the professor did.
You could do a road trip from Southern California.
Yeah,
a 2-day road trip.
Yeah, a serious road trip. So 8 hours. Where would that put you? If you drove for 8 hours, that would put you what? In
Sacramento.
Really?
Yeah.
It takes that long to get to Sacramento?
Well, it takes that long if you take Highway 101.
All right.
And that's what I
so
would
the
have done.
Really scenic route.
Yeah, I would have done Highway 101.
Okay.
At least through to San Jose.
All right. Well, okay. Yeah. So there's the iDriveSoCal tie.
Yeah.
That if you were going to drive it, it could be a very beautiful scenic drive. Head up to Sacramento. All right, podcast listeners, I'm sure this one's really got you on the edge of your seat.
And if you stop by Sacramento, there's a car museum in Sacramento as well.
Professor, there you go. Yeah. All right, so on your way to the World of Speed Motorsports Museum, just 17 miles south of Portland, Oregon, in Wilsonville, from Southern California, shoot up to Sacramento, hit the Auto Museum in Sacramento, shoot another 8 hours up to Wilsonville.
Yeah.
The second one was not planned, right?
The second one was not planned. While driving around Portland, I saw...
You just spotted it.
I spotted an ad for The Shape of Speed.
Okay. So there you go. So we're going to talk about The Shape of Speed, which is an exhibit that sounds really cool at the Portland Art Museum. So if you're making your way up to Portland, or if this exhibit comes down around these parts, we'll let you know for sure. And this one sounds really neat. The time period's really neat. And it's not the museum itself is actually the Portland Art Museum. So the whole kind of theme or the whole perspective of this particular Shape of Speed exhibit is a little bit different. So, Professor, tell us all about it.
Yeah, this is a new exhibit featured at the Portland Art Museum. It's called The Shape of Speed, featuring vehicles from 1930 to 1942. There are 17 vehicles on display and 2 motorcycles, and these are cars that are very aerodynamic. For that time period from 1930 to 1942, as I mentioned. So these are cars that are very unique in terms of design.
And I
would say they're groundbreaking for their time period.
They're goofy looking, some of them.
Some of them are.
But there's an Alfa Romeo that is gorgeous.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen that one before.
I haven't for sure. And we're of course going to do iDriveSoCal.com. Check out this post, this podcast post. We're going to have these images that we're talking about, as always. If you're not already looking at these images while we're listening to this podcast. But the Alfa is gorgeous. The other one that had a similar look to it was that a Bugatti?
Yeah, it's a Bugatti Type 57, 1935. It's called the Aerolite.
Okay. And then the other thing it's not a Tata, that's the Indian, but from India company that's producing cars now.
Yes.
But it's what was the name of it? Do you recall?
Tatra.
Tatra.
Yes, I've never heard of that.
It looked like it had a Volkswagen front almost with very sleek sides and like a Jetsons back. I mean, it had like a weird fin down the middle. Anyway,
the back is definitely very, very unique on that vehicle.
These pics are worth checking out. Now, the interesting thing to me, right off the top of my head, about these vehicles, the particular time period from 1930 to 1942, is this is post World War I.
Yes.
and then basically running right up to World War II. So obviously World War II is a significant event in the world, and a lot of production ceased because so many or most every automotive manufacturer switched to some kind of arms manufacturing during World War II. So did they touch on anything in that regard, how it tied into the end of kind of, because then when when World War II ended, it was the designs and everything were different. So did they touch on the aspect of the World War at all in the exhibit, or
not from what I could recall?
Okay.
No.
Stimulating. So then why don't you give me the thread that the museum wove this exhibit through?
Well, this exhibit was curated by Ken Gross, former director of the world famous Peterson Automotive Museum,
Right here in Southern California.
Yes, here in Los Angeles,
which ties into iDriveSoCal. So there's another tie. All right,
there's another.
We're stretching for ties.
Yeah. And this is really the centerpiece exhibit for the Portland Art Museum, and I think they did a fantastic job exhibiting the cars. They have it in a wide open space, but then they also have some cars in a private room, and the cars are all the way it's laid out. You can really enjoy and appreciate the cars and take some really, really good photos. And they have vehicles from a wide variety of manufacturers, so it's not just focused on a particular manufacturer, including Talbot Lago, Alfa Romeo.
Are they all Europeans?
Bugatti, Mercedes-Benz. No, they're not. That's a good question. There was also a Chrysler.
Oh.
And I believe there was a Ford as well. So a number of from a number of different countries.
Okay.
Not just European countries.
Okay. All right. So in no tie to World War I or II whatsoever.
Well, there could have been.
There could have been.
I didn't have much time since that was also the final day right before going to the airport.
All right.
So we went through the exhibit pretty quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, some beautiful cars for sure.
Yes, and definitely worth visiting if you're in Portland.
I
highly recommend it. Yes.
And
in fact, I think one or two of the vehicles was actually on loan from the Mullen Automotive Museum.
Oh, okay. Right up there in Oxnard.
Yeah.
Another podcast that we covered just recently.
Car museum in SoCal.
Your favorite in SoCal. That's right. You mentioned during that podcast that it's not, hey, you think it's your favorite, but you haven't been to every museum in the world. So
car museums.
You can't say your all-time favorite of all favorites.
Yeah. It could be.
It could be.
Could be.
All right. We're all on the edge of our seats waiting to find out. All right. Anything else at all?
That's
nothing.
Pretty much what I have.
All right. Awesome. All right. Professor, thank you very much as always. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. For iDriveSoCal, I'm Tom Smith. Thank you for listening.
This episode was engineered and edited by Micah Palmquist.
Hey there. Still wanting more iDriveSoCal content? Just go to iDriveSoCal.com. From there, you can subscribe to our podcast and newsletter. And you can connect with one of our awesome car dealer partners to get yourself a sweet new high-tech wonder on wheels. And oh yeah, we always want to hear from you. So please connect with us on Facebook and Twitter. Or if you're not a big social media-ite, you can email us suggestions for stories, people, places, or events you think we should cover. Here's the address: media@iDriveSoCal.com. That's media, MEDIA, at the letter I, drive, DRIVE, SoCal, SoCal.com. Media@iDriveSoCal.com. Thanks again for listening, and definitely reach out with whatever's on your mind.